Well, this morning, an explosive interview with Charlie Sheen on the Today Show. Take a listen.
Yeah, I'm here to admit that I am, in fact, HIV positive.
Well, the first celebrity to go public with that illness was Rock Hudson way back in 1985, then Magic Johnson in 1991. Both were shockers. Since then, though, a lot has changed.
And joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is Dr. LaQuandra Nesbitt, director of the D.C. Department of Health, and Ryan Pettengill with the Grassroot Project. Thank you both for coming in this morning. There doesn't seem to be the amount of shock with Charlie Sheen's announcement that there was with Rock Hudson and with Magic Johnson. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think what we know about HIV has changed significantly in this country since the 1980s. We also know that from the public health perspective, we approach HIV as a chronic condition now. And so we now know that people are living longer lives, more productive lives, and are living with HIV similar to many chronic conditions now. And so it is no longer the death sentence that people perceived it to be back in the 1980s. When the first cases were emerging. So there's an element of that that's definitely at play now in our society.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at Magic Johnson right now and see that people go on to have a very, happy, healthy life that, like you said, is not a death sentence.
Absolutely, but what we also want people to understand that with any chronic diagnosis of a chronic disease, there is a lifestyle change that has to happen, that has to occur, and so we want people to be educated about what happens when you have a diagnosis of HIV. But there's a lot that has happened with the science. We know that we can absolutely prevent the transmission of HIV, and so we want people to be educated about why this doesn't have to continue to occur, why the spread of the illness or the virus can be prevented in a modern society, and what we need to be doing, especially here in Washington, D.C., to prevent more cases from occurring.
But I think that, not to get on the magic thing too much, but that did change a lot, because before, when that happened in 1991, it was like, oh no, well, he's going to die. Oh my goodness, and how did he contract it and whatever. 24 years later, the fact that he's as healthy now as he was then, and the changes in science as well, there's no question that it's just such a different thing that you hear it and say, wow, that's too bad. But our perception is different. What is the Grassroot Project kind of doing with this?
Yeah, well, it's important that people understand that HIV is still a problem, a huge problem in our cities, and especially in D.C. 2.5% of the population, the adult population in D.C. is living with HIV, and people don't realize that.
Wow, that's a lot.
So they know, obviously Magic's story, Charlie Sheen's story is still unfolding, but there are people that ride our subways and we see around the city every day that are still living with us. It's a real problem. So the Grassroot Project takes college athletes and leverages the fact that athletes are role models and puts them into our D.C. middle schools, working with 7th graders specifically, to talk about HIV, to talk about risk behavior, to talk about stigma, and to just help get the word out about HIV.